need to turn this on
Yes.
as well?
Got something to snack on.
There we go, it's turning.
Call the Osceola Township Board meeting to order. Roll call, please, Ms. Wolf.
Ms. Berger. Here. Mr. Hopla.
Here.
Here.
5 members present. We do have a quorum. Please note, as I'm sure you did at the water board meeting, the absence of Mr. Janke and Mr. Wareham. The next item on our proposed agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would kindly stand if you're able, face the flag and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next item on our proposed agenda is approval of the agenda as presented. And if I may add one item before the motion, would be B under new business, lien release. That proposed addition, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented / amended?
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Gardner, is there support? Support from Ms. Hool. Are there any other proposed additions to the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as presented / amended, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our January 12th, 2022 board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
My motion.
Ms. Hool, is there support?
I'll support.
Ms. Gardner, are there any proposed corrections, deletions, additions to the minutes?
Mhm.
Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as presented from our January 12th, 2022 meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In addition, asking you to approve minutes from our special meeting held on January 21st, 2022. Find those in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting on January 21st, 2022?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Gardner, is there support?
Support.
Ms. Hool, motion and support. Are there any suggested changes to the proposed minutes, corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Financial reports in your packet. Township, General, Road Fund, Mason Wastewater Fund, Tamarack City Water Fund, Osceola Township Water Fund. Is there anything unusual in any of the financial reports? Questions, comments, concerns about the reports before I call for a motion?
Mm-mm.
Ask for a motion to accept the financial reports as presented.
Motion.
Motion, Ms. Hool to accept the reports. Is there support?
I'll support.
Gardner supports. Any further discussion on the motion or any items contained inside the motion relative to the general fund, road fund, Mason wastewater fund, Tamarack City water, and Osceola Township water? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item, approval of payment of bills from the general fund, road fund, Mason fund, Tamarack City water fund, and Osceola Township water fund. Please note there are recommendations from the water funds to approve those as presented. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills from the general fund, road fund, Mason fund, Tamarack City water, and Osceola Township water?
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Ms. Gardner, is there support?
Support.
Support. This is approval of payment of bills. With roll call vote, please.
Ms. Gardner.
Yes.
Mr. Hopla.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item on our proposed agenda is public comment. This is the first of two opportunities during the board meeting for anyone wishing to address the board with question, comment at all. You'd be given up to 3 minutes. We would only ask you to identify yourself prior to, and your 3 minutes will begin when you begin talking. Interested? Yes, sir.
Emmett Bajorn with UP Engineers and Architects. It is our understanding that Osceola Township submitted an intent to apply form for the drinking water SRF program right at the deadline in January. It would be UP Engineers and Architects recommendation that if Osceola Township were to move forward with a drinking water project to evaluate the drinking water SRF versus a rural development funding source. There's differences between the two. The drinking water SRF, it's a bit higher loan percentage, and it may have a smaller duration, 30-year or 20-year versus rural development, which is 40-year. The drinking water, they also offer loan forgiveness, which is a grant in other words, in the same fashion as a grant, I guess you could say. The rural development with the lower percentage over the longer duration on the loan, it can make for a more affordable payment, and so it would pay to compare the two, and just knowing the Dollar Bay water system versus the Tamarack system, they have different rate structures. It would be very interesting to do an evaluation on both of those at that time to see how both of those rates would be affected with a project, with a given project, with a given project cost. So that's all I really had. We would just recommend that the rural development funding source be looked into as well as a good comparison.
May I ask a question of you? Could
Yep.
you explain what the initials stand for that you were using earlier?
Yep.
on your-
So the drinking water SRF is state revolving funds.
Thank you.
It's through the state of Michigan. Where rural development is, there's a state office, but it's federal monies as well too, so.
Thank you.
And there's different requirements with both. For instance, like the drinking water SRF, state revolving fund, will require the board to go out for qualification-based selection at the time they were awarded a project. So that would mean different consultants would be required to be asked and to provide proposals, and then the township board would have to make a selection at that point based on that criteria. And SRF has a required schedule that would need to take place as well too, which is just it's just different than rural development, so.
Thanks, Emmett. Appreciate it. And my apologies, I did let Emmett go a little longer because I did ask a question for clarification. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else that would like to address the board at this time would have up to 3 minutes. We would ask that you identify yourself, and the clock will begin when you start talking. Hearing none, please know that a second opportunity for public comment will be afforded at the end of the meeting prior to adjournment. Please note the time is full. We will conclude the public comment portion of our agenda, the first of two. Next item on our agenda are reports. The packet has multiple reports in it, but not all of the reports that we have become accustomed to have arrived prior to tonight's meeting. Example, there is correspondence in from our assessor in your packet. water report. And we'll talk about correspondence perhaps a little bit later on in our agenda. You'll find a report from maintenance for the month of January, and the report concluded this past Monday, the 7th of February. There is obviously an action item coming up from the Osceola Utility/Water Board relative to an amended budget. We could act on that now if it's the board's pleasure, or we could act on amended budgets later on in the process. This might be an appropriate time to act on the amended budget that came up from the Water Board. We have a recommendation from the Water Board to adopt the proposed amended budget for the current fiscal year that they reviewed and voted up with their recommendation to approve. Is there any general discussion at this time on the proposed amendment?
No, but I'll make a motion to accept that recommendation.
We have a motion from Ms. Gardner to accept the recommendation of the Osceola Township Utility Board to adopt the amended budget for the fiscal year. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
A second to the motion. Is there any additional discussion on the motion to accept the recommendation of the Utility Board to approve the amended budget as presented?
No.
Hearing none, could we have a roll call vote on approval of the budget as whole?
Ms. Gardner.
Yes.
Mr. Hopla.
Yes.
Yes.
We have unanimous vote, those present to approve, i.e. adopt the amended budget for the balance of the fiscal year. We have,
Wait, I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
On Laura's email,
yes,
do we need to discuss anything tonight about her contract renewal? Or, I mean, do we need to like officially table it to next meeting, or
She doesn't need to be renewed until
April 1st, yeah?
yeah, I'm treating it, the information in the packet
Just
as
as
an
information.
informational item only from her, given that we will be looking at budgets in detail for the coming year, and that will be
Okay.
part of the discussion during the month of March. If there's a desire to back up to the assessor's report and discuss it briefly at this time, we certainly can.
No, I mean, that's fine, but can you, cause she only sent the email to you, can you forward her proposed contract to all of us so we can look it over?
Indeed. I don't know that I've even printed it yet.
Okay.
So, my apologies for that, I'll get on that. Please make a note of that if you would.
Okay.
Planning Tracy to make sure I print that. See, fire department, did we get a
No.
Dollar Bay, we have a first responders report in the packet. Tamarack City Fire Department in the packet. We also have the Tamarack City Utility Advisory Board information in the packet. To include a recommendation in your packet, you will find a proposed amended budget for the Tamarack City water system. And this was reviewed by the advisory 1 week ago today, on the 2nd of February at the meeting, and if you'd like to act on it now, I will go through it very quickly for our audience, so to highlight the proposed changes. Budget itself would not change from $122,660, but various lines would be addressed. They include vehicle expense, $731, proposed is to increase that to $1,600 from the $1,300 currently in the budget. If you look at office supplies, they're very close to the $400 identified in the original budget. It is recommended it go to $500, an increase of $100. Maintenance and repair is also very close to the $2,200 originally budgeted. The recommendation is to go to $2,400. With regards to costs, staying with that, utility expenses have already exceeded the budget of $2,300. It is recommended that be raised to $2,700. And please note, we're looking at expenses through February 8th. The advisory was looking at figures that were slightly less than some of these because their figures were through January. So we have a slight increase on the utility side, and in addition, 957 training and conferences. You'll notice that we've already exceeded the $100 in the budget. The recommendation is to raise that by $50. The total amount of change comes to $1,050, moved across 5 different lines. It is recommended that we take it out of line 919, repair and replacement. It is currently at $5,000. No dollars have been utilized yet in that budget line. We would recommend then, or are recommending, a reduction to $4,475 or a $525 change in that line. And then under miscellaneous expense, we have $1,200 budgeted. The recommendation is to reduce that to $675 or by $525. The expenses under miscellaneous so far are less than $80. This will retain the budget as is at $122,660. It moves money out of 2 lines to accommodate 5 lines that appear to need or do need resources. That is the recommendation from the Tamarack City. You have it?
I don't.
It should have been in your packet, but apparently not. Okay. I apologize for that.
No, here's one right here.
It looks like $130 is unaccounted for on the expense side because we have a net ordinary income of 130 and the total on the budget is 122,530. So to get it to balance, we're just gonna have to put 130 in expenses somewhere to get it to
In
work.
addition?
Yeah,
Okay.
the way this is printed right now.
Okay, we're looking at something different than.
No, this is the one I printed,
Okay, yeah, this is
Yesterday
running
or whatever.
through,
the 8th,
through the 8th.
yeah.
So we need to add $130 in expenses someplace else.
Yeah, I mean, we can probably drop it in miscellaneous or
That's-
something,
Then we could put $130 back into miscellaneous. Would that
Mhm.
address the issue?
yeah.
Raising that to 805? Will that
Yeah.
cover it?
Then it'll get rid of that, it'll make the net income 0 and it'll make the bottom line correct.
Okay, does that make it correct then?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you see what I
We
mean?
were changing miscellaneous 956 to 805.
Yes.
And then it's gonna, I'll just show you why. Cause that doesn't match,
Oh.
it'll get rid of this, this will be 0, and that'll match.
Okay. With the proposed change from Ms. Gardner, is there a motion to approve the amended budget as amended this evening with the recommendations combined from the TC Water Board?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to accept their recommendation with the adjustment made in the miscellaneous line to accommodate the additional expense. Is there a support for the motion?
I'll support.
The motion and support, is there further discussion on the motion to accept the recommendation of the TC Water Board relative to the amended budget with the adjustment made as recommended by Ms. Gardner? Any further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call vote please on the
Ms.
proposed.
Gardner?
Yes.
Chalkla?
Yes,
Yes.
we have amended the 2 water system budgets for the current fiscal year to address cost and or resource redistribution and or the addition of revenue. Torch Lake Sewage Authority, you'll find 2 reports in there. One is a special meeting report from the 31st of January, and the other is from their regularly scheduled meeting on the 24th of January. The board doesn't mind, Mr. Schmidt is here, who is a representative of our township on that sewage authority, and we have called on him in the past to offer comment or feedback. That be acceptable to ask questions of Mr. Horsch at this time, from the board's perspective?
Yeah.
Horsch, is there anything that you'd like to add relative to the two reports that we have here?
Outside the fact that this is the last year, we will have a 9.5% increase. It'll go down, next year to something like about 1.5%.
Horace, could you speak louder, please?
Sure, certainly. As I said, this is the last year in which we will have a 9.5% increase in the water rate, or sewer rate, I'm sorry. And, after next budget year, it'll be about 1.5% per year. This is something that's set up by the, rural development people as a requirement for us to maintain the, sewage system in good order by having sufficient revenue to cover our expenses. And so I think that's probably the most important thing for residents of the affected areas.
Tamarack City in particular, as it pertains to Osceola Township. If I may ask a question, you're referring to the coming fiscal year, is the last year, 2020?
This year.
This
now.
current year, so at the end of this fiscal year, whenever it's over for the sewage authority,
Yes,
the 9.5% rate will disappear and will drop in the coming fiscal year
yes.
to 1.5%
I
approximately.
think so. I won't hold to that, but it's much lower.
Okay.
And this is again, just to make sure that we have enough revenue coming in to maintain the system. And because we are working on getting 2 new lagoons, one here in Tamarack City, and the other one up in, I don't know if it's Lake Linden
Lake Linden.
or the other municipality, but it's you know, it's gonna be a huge expense, but also it means we won't be in violations of state regulations on sewage.
Any questions of board?
So, I don't understand. So it's increasing 8%,
No,
That-
9.5%.
or 9.5, and it's
Right.
going to decrease from 9.5 and then increase by
No.
1, or it'll
No,
only
it'll
increase
It'll
by
drop
1?
down to approximately 1.5% going
No.
forward.
It's, you know, it's just like all the other rates you
Yeah,
have.
no,
okay?
I
No, I
just
just
misheard,
wanted
I
to-
didn't,
yeah.
that's why I was confused. So did this actually took effect at the end of January?
These
Right.
are the recently passed, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so in essence, Tamarack City should have been billed this on the bills that I just sent?
I think we'll be catching up in the next cycle. yeah.
Okay. Why, there's a lot of confusion about this extra lagoon. Why was there a need to build an extra lagoon in Tamarack City when the population in Tamarack City really hasn't gone up to necessitate an additional lagoon?
well, first of all, the lagoons are out of compliance with state regulations as to, a lagoon that's safe, environmentally safe.
Okay,
And so, by putting in a new lagoon, we'll be able to store all the sewage throughout the winter,
mhm,
and then we won't be polluting Torch Lake.
mhm.
Where right now, if there's a buildup, they may have to release, some of the water from the lagoon, prematurely.
Do you know when the original lagoons were built?
No, I don't.
Does anybody?
We're in the second 30-year cycle, so they date back to, I believe, the early 80s.
So it's a long time,
Yeah,
alright,
early to mid-80s, it's been a while.
okay.
And you wanna keep in mind, we're also trying to get the, lake cleaned up,
Mhm.
for the area of concern, project.
Right,
And so we don't want to add new problems to the old ones that we just remediated as we go through this project.
right,
We want a lake that's viable, you know, have the ability to hold all the, fish and other aquatic creatures in the lake. So it's really, kind of like, we're not coordinated, but we're not working against each other.
mhm. Well, that makes sense, that was never, well, at least not to me, I was never addressed that they were out of compliance, so I didn't know that. What role does adding the airport into the system, how does that affect, the need for a new lagoon? I mean, I imagine that plays a part in it.
It's, right now, I think we're okay,
Mhm,
with the amount coming down. It seems I think it's even, the volume may even have decreased recently. And so, we don't have a problem, but we don't have a lagoon that's big enough to hold what's currently coming down there, plus the stuff from our communities.
Okay.
So in other words, there has been some impact on capacity because of the airport that necessitates the third.
Well,
Lagoon as well.
I'm assuming it's the same impact since the county and the sewage authority signed their original agreement, which I think is probably about at least halfway through its cycle at this point. You know, I think it's a 30-year agreement. And so at this point, I can't tell you what the difference is in terms of the sewage. I guess I can venture that we have more industrial properties up at the airport, industrial park, which is tied into our sewer system.
Okay.
So, so there has probably been an increase over time on the amount of sewage coming down, so that may be a factor. But basically, the current lagoons can't hold everything that comes into the system, even though we've worked hard to make sure we clear up all the leaks that normally come into a sewer system over time. You know, the rainwater, stormwater, that kind of thing.
Right.
So we've got a good system in both locations, and you know, with the way in with getting back to the rates, by having those rates, we can maintain the system, you know, for a long time, and it makes us eligible for future funding, which usually means loans and grants. And that's why we're doing it, to maintain and be in their good graces.
Anything else? Thanks, Horst, really appreciate it. Supervisor's report, I just glance at the clock and try to move expeditiously through this 3/4 of a page of items to bring to your attention. First of all, the Board of Review, all 5 members of the Board of Review, to include the alternates along with myself, are scheduled to attend the MTA training for Board of Review members next Wednesday on Michigan Tech's campus. Ms. Gardner, you're attending via the internet.
Yep.
The March meeting schedule is out in the paper relative to the petitioners' dates. The organizational meeting for the Board of Review will take place on the 8th of March, followed by 2, in essence, day-long sessions on the 14th and 18th. On the 14th, I believe it'll begin at 2 in the afternoon, conclude at 5 for a dinner break, reconvene at 6, and go till 9. That will be here in the Township office. The Friday, the 18th meeting will take place at the Fire Hall, beginning at 9 in the morning, running till noon, a brief lunch break, reconvening at 1, and concluding at 4. There will be a post-petition presentation, concluding meeting, follow-up, if you will, for the Board of Review, but date and time are to be determined. That will take place in March as well. We have a 5-year recreation plan contract offered by Yooper. That's in your handout. We did agree to work with them on the development, or contracted with them to work with us, perhaps more appropriately, on our 5-year rec plan that is due by, I believe, the end of this calendar year to affect years 2023 through 2027. Are there any questions on the agreement that they have offered? It's consistent with original correspondence that we acted upon when we accepted their offer. We have a motion to allow the contract to go forward as presented.
Mark, I have a question.
I can't accept a question at this moment,
Okay.
Horst, from the audience relative to board business. I apologize for that, but is there a motion to accept the agreement and authorize signature?
I'll make a motion.
Motion from Ms. Gardner, is there support?
No support.
Support. Any further discussion on the motion to accept the contract offer from Yooper? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Thank you, motion carries, we'll execute the contract forthwith. Next item is March budget meetings. We need a meeting scheduled to include our public hearing. I've highlighted the dates relative to board of review that are known at this moment. I am suggesting that we hold a couple of work sessions, probably the week of the 21st of March, and then pick two dates, the week of the 28th of March, to schedule our public hearing and final meeting with neither Don nor Aaron available tonight. Perhaps we could look at those 2 weeks. Are they acceptable to the board? Scheduling sometime during the week of the 21st, probably two 60 to 90-minute sessions relative to the budgets. And of course, all of our budget meetings are open to the public, just to footnote that for you. And then look at the week of the 28th to schedule the public hearing and then the final meeting on the budgets for the coming year that week. But we normally pick two dates just in case the first one is not a good one. So we'll end up contacting board members. And are those weeks?
You lost me, like, can you go back to those dates again?
The first two meetings would take place the week of the 21st of March. Dates and times to be determined.
2 meetings that week?
2 meetings that week.
Okay.
And then we would hold our public hearing the following week, the week of the 28th. Date and time to be determined, and then post-public hearing on the same date, we would hold the final meeting to approve everything after the public hearing. So, I'm not asking you to pick dates tonight, but just to be alert that that's the time frame we're looking at. This is very flexible, it's consistent with previous years, but just want to notify for this to possible dates for the budget meetings.
Are they gonna be in the evening?
It would be whenever it's convenient
Whenever
for
it works.
everybody. In the past, they've even taken place on a Saturday,
Oh, yeah, sure.
so.
Well, I've got, my board of review is on the 25th, so.
Training
Mm-hmm.
in March?
Oh, no, that's February. Oh
Yeah,
my
we're talking
God.
March, latter part of March, not this
It
one.
would help if I'm in the right part of the
We're
calendar.
a month and a half from the proposed meeting dates. That's why we're
Okay,
just throwing
well,
out timeframes for you. Would you like me to move on?
Yeah,
Road Commission, in your packet, there's the 5-year plan. Attended that public hearing. On the 19th, I met with, of January, I met with Kevin Haryu and with John Sema relative to the property issue in Tamarack City. That issue, for all practical purposes, has been resolved from our perspective satisfactorily. There's paperwork and documentation available. I did a copy of the letter on the table if anybody'd like to look at it. The property is actually owned by the Road Commission. It came into question some time ago in correspondence as a result of a tax sale. The evidence appears at this moment that the Road Commission has owned the property since, well, approximately 17 years.
2005.
16, 17 years ago. And everything that we've done with the Road Commission to gain access to the property for our meter vault, et cetera, inside that property in Tamarack City, is on target and appropriate. And now the individual who purchased the property, from his perspective as a tax sale, is trying to get the situation corrected from his standpoint, and in my opinion, probably obtain a refund or a sale that property that perhaps wasn't available for sale in the first place. Be very careful with my language, the Road Commission has had title to it, but the issue is not something that we're involved with directly, but instead it has had the potential to impact on our water system in Tamarack and the meter vault, but it appears that it does not, and everything's in place from our standpoint. The ice rink at current time is operational, has been for about a week and a half to 2 weeks, utilizing volunteers. We have had, I believe, 7 volunteers come and obtain keys to the warming shack and the snow blower shed, and many more than that have volunteered their time down there cleaning, flooding, chaperoning, etc. I've heard that upwards of 50 individuals were on the rink at any given time over the last week to 10 days. So the ice rink is fully operational. Volunteers have done a fabulous job and deserve great credit for their time, energy, and commitment to the rink here in Dollar Bay. We did do one thing to aid in its cleaning and maintenance. Travis came down from, I believe it's TWE Engineering, and at our request, put hinges on 2 sets of boards so they now swing open so we can get larger vehicles on there for both setup and cleaning when necessary. So it's all going quite well. Our maintenance person, Scott Reed, goes down there daily on his schedule and checks to make sure everything's in place. And only one time in the last 2 weeks, as he mentioned, that something was out of order, and then he sort of speculated that maybe they didn't have a key to get in after scraping, and the scrapers were left outside the warming shack on the ground. But that's all been taken care of, so it's being utilized, and the feedback that I've been getting is very, very positive. With regards to our Michigan Department of Transportation licensing agreements relative to our water lines and sewer system down in Mason, we've executed the agreements on our end. We've sent the payments down for the 5-year period for both licensing agreements. We have yet to receive executed agreements back from MDOT. I did call down to the person I was working with, Don Van Hals, at the beginning of the week. I'm waiting to hear back from her. It's probably something that's moving up internally, will get signed and ultimately sent out to us. But it's my understanding, looking at both Tracy and Krista, that the checks were cashed. So it's just a matter of waiting for the paperwork. I've been very busy on behalf of the township and something that I knew next to nothing about until a few weeks ago, and that is an idea for a non-motorized trail between Hancock and Lake Linden that would utilize the railroad grade running through town and where our water and sewer lines are in the Mason area for a non-motorized trail. This is still at the concept idea stage, but there's a lot of momentum behind it. There was a very well-attended meeting on the 26th of January at the Franklin Township office, upwards of 36 people in attendance, both via an electronic platform from the state level and then in person from area communities and townships interested in this. I've indicated our intent to be involved, our desire to be part of the planning process, and I'm expected to attend meetings going forward on our behalf to be a two-way conduit for information and input to that group as it begins to coalesce around this idea. The intent would be to have a trail running from the bridge all the way to Lake Linden on the railroad grade that would be, for the vast majority of it, separate and distinct from any motorized trail, off-road vehicles, snowmobiles, etc. For people to cross-country, ski, walk at all. How it would be covered, how it would be developed is still an open question, but the idea has a lot of traction behind it, and there will be meetings taking place over the next several days and few weeks on it. One of the lead entities in it, in all likelihood, will be the Holton County Recreation Authority, and we have a meeting tentatively scheduled for next Monday to kind of get that committee reorganized again. We signed off on it last year. We're a part of the authority, but with changes in administration at the county level recently, the pandemic and any number of other factors, the Recreation Authority has not been meeting on a regular basis. We're trying to get it back up and meeting. We're through the Articles of Incorporation, the bylaws, at the meeting as early as next week, I believe is the plan, and then to work inside that group and externally relative to this non-motorized trail. So we'll keep everybody good on that. Quick update from Gabe Seelan at Semco. they had hoped to have material to us relative to a requested easement to put in a meter station and other piping in and around our baseball field as they expand and enhance their capabilities in and around Dollar Bay. But they haven't even had a chance to get the proposed area surveyed yet. He hopes to have a report to us by the March meeting. Chris, if I may impose upon you for a moment about the Portage Health Foundation Recreation Grant. I know you've been doing some work on our behalf there.
Yeah, the actual grant proposal is not due yet, and of course, I was gonna write it down, I don't remember the date, but, we're looking at, one of the ideas is possibly fencing for the dog park, over here by, on our property out by.
Oh, the Gooseneck Creek area?
Yeah, but, yeah, so we'll put that in and see what happens.
Thank you. Very quickly, I'm meeting on the 17th, which is next Thursday, with the representatives of the VA office relative to veterans banners in Dollar Bay and in Tamarack City. I do know that the Dollar Bay Fire Department has offered to put them up. There's considerable interest in Tamarack City, but I'm not sure that they've taken formal action yet. I'm going up on the 17th, as spring is going to come one of these months. That would be an ideal time where everybody's on board in position just to go forward with banners. This is at little or no cost to the township. If I recall correctly, the banners are actually purchased by the family members and or veterans or some combination thereof of friends, family, et al. On behalf of the veteran, and then the fire departments would hang them. They come with hangers, so it's a matter of having an approved entity place them on the power poles. And our current agreement with UPCO, I believe, does permit us to do that on various poles across the township. So we have that base covered, but I'll follow up with Jay Ringler and others at the power company to make sure that what I just said is accurate and remains in effect. I'm still trying to schedule my meeting with Tim Polisari relative to junk automobiles and the scrap metal down by his storage area. I know he was working late last fall, early winter, trying to get someone down there to start hauling that stuff away. I'll have an update ideally by our March meeting. Another potential action item is that we had a fire on Millionaire Street in mid-January. Three departments up there responded to the structure fire, house fire. Calumet Township, Village of Calumet, Village of Lorium. Considerable damage to the dwelling, and the supervisor up in Calumet Township made a decision that the building was, in essence, after talking with members of the fire departments and what have you, and his own observations and input, was that the building was not habitable anymore, that it really needed to come down, and call on a local contractor to come in essence, push everything over, so no one would go into that. It would clearly have no purpose. It's all kind of stacked inside the foundation, covered with snow at this time. But it is in Osceola Township, and Mr. Gasperch and I talked briefly, and I suggested that maybe if there are costs associated with this that are borne outside the fire department expenses, which would cover in our arrangements up there, that we would consider contributing to the cost. In your packet is material from him indicating that the cost to them is $810 for the equipment and the labor to knock the destroyed building over, so it would be uninhabitable. My recommendation would be that perhaps we address half the costs to assist Calumet Township in covering the costs of $810. Our outlay with them before $105. Meet with the board's approval.
Yeah.
Is it something I could do unilaterally, or perhaps a motion to do that would be in
I'll
order?
motion.
Motion
I'll
from
support.
Ms. Wool, supported by Ms. Gardner, to authorize $405 out of either fire fund or general fund to address the costs associated with the building destruction post-fire on Millionaire Street. Any discussion on the motion? we're expending resources, then from the board level, could I have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Holt?
Ms. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Alpla,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you, motion carries unanimously. I'll let Mr. Gaspard know that we'll assist with the costs of the building's destruction. The last item I had was simply an informational item. The Michigan Township Association has its annual conference in Lansing, the last week of April.
What is that, sorry?
The 25th through the 28th of April in Lansing at, I believe, the Convention Center. Not
What
too far from the
what
Radis.
meeting is it?
This is the
Their
Michigan
annual
Township
conference, I see.
Association annual meeting. But it is over a 4-day period. I've looked at, there's a lot of really interesting things that are being offered there. Not interested in day number 1 because it's primarily a pre-conference day, but from Tuesday through Thursday morning, there are ongoing activities, breakout sessions and presentations running all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. And then the legislative breakfast is Thursday morning, which is from the past life of real interest to me, given all the things we've been talking about doing in the township. We are ultimately, I think, going to need legislative support with some, most, or conceivably all of this in one way, shape, or form. But I'm not coming with any request at this time. There's still ample time, but I did want to alert the board to this possibility tonight. If, on the other hand, if I could just add a footnote, there will be a UP-wide conference again, like there was last year, as a UP version of this, then my interest in going down to Lansing would wane. It would be cheaper and closer to attend one in the Upper Peninsula. Based on my one that I've experienced there, definitely worth the time and the resource to attend, but a lot more convenient, a lot closer if it's up here. So, I think that's all I have for my report. Thank you for allowing me way more than the time I originally intended to take. Under unfinished business, next item, Zane Purkis from OHM relative to a snowmobile update. We talked earlier in the week, he's still in sort of holding pattern as to where things are. So he asked and agreed that coming to our March meeting would make more sense. So leave that there. We do have a draw request from UP Engineering for additional funding. I don't have it right in front of me. Ms. Gardner, could I ask you to kind of highlight that very quickly? Right there, so how much they're looking for.
17th draw request, we need to approve a resolution approving the payment of $1,146.69.
And is there anything else besides the resolution that would require board action?
No.
I'll make a motion.
From a motion from Ms. Hool to approve the draw request, that would be
Number 17.
number 17, on behalf of UP Engineering. A motion to approve the resolution. In favor of that, do I have support for that motion?
I'll support.
The motion and support, is there any further discussion on the motion to approve the draw request, number 17 from UP Engineering, in the amount of $1,000?
$146.69.
Thank you. Further discussion, hearing none, roll call vote please on the
Ms.
motion.
Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Alpla,
Yes,
yes.
thank you. Unanimously approved the UP Engineering draw request. Table business, Elm Street restoration, suggested that stay there. Any discussion on assisting with Elm Street restoration will take place during our budget meetings. Tamarack City land split request, Greg and I spoke earlier, been on phone tag with him all week, and he is seeking additional information and may have other ideas for use of the property, and has accepted my suggestion that instead of coming tonight, he's in the middle of something, that perhaps the March meeting would make more sense for him, and he agreed, so he will join us in March with an updated request in all likelihood relative to the use of property on the corner of 2nd and M26 in Tamarack City. New business, again, covered earlier in my remarks, but we do need to hold budget meetings in March, the latest. Again, I'm not asking for dates tonight. looking at the calendar, the week of March 21st and the week of March 28th are the last 2 weeks of the month. I believe we have to have all of our work concluded and our hearing held prior to the end of the fiscal year. And that would certainly allow us to do that. I am suggesting that we hold 2 meetings during the week of the 21st, each lasting between an hour and 30 minutes. And then our public hearing and the final meeting to approve the budgets the week of the 28th. Do either of you have concerns about that time period in your schedules as you know them at this moment? That would work for both of you?
The Thursdays I would need it later, cause I'm gonna be in Marquette both Thursdays, but.
Okay. I'll make a point of talking with Mr. Wareham and Mr. Janke in the next day or two, and by Monday have their thoughts on which days
Evenings
work
would
best.
probably be better.
Pardon?
Evenings would probably be
And
better.
that may be the case, maybe a 5 to 6:30 or a 6 to 7:30 or something one night, so we can
Mhm.
accomplish that for you. And that will give us additional time to do the prep work and whatever, for those.
I'd rather do that than a Saturday.
Yeah. I think that's most everybody's
Yeah.
sentiment, that a couple of late afternoons or early evenings that first
Mhm.
week. And I think by then it'll be past board review and into our closeout or
Yeah.
follow-up meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight? Have I overlooked something that?
What's this?
Our lien release.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't write it on this, I wrote it on the other one. Lien relief, we have, and Krista, perhaps if I may impose upon you to describe what's going on and what we need to do.
Yeah, so, there's a property in Dollar Bay that, a parent is selling to their child, and when it went through a title search, they came across something that showed we held a lien on the property for the previous owners, not the current owner, but the previous owner. And we couldn't find any information as to why this exists, but, I was able to track down an actual copy of the lien agreement and sent it to Pat, our attorney, and, when he looked at it, there is a clause in there that talks about a 20% reduction each year that the original owner held the property, and when we calculated it, they would have like $300 and some odd left that we could, it just makes me laugh, we could foreclose on the home, for the current owner, or we could just release the lien considering it's such a small amount, and this was recorded in 1993, the people that it was recorded against are both deceased, and the property's changed hands, and now it's changing hands again. So he said we could do one of two. I guess if we're taking a motion, I would like to make a motion to just release the lien based on the language given from Pat, our township attorney.
I would call for a motion on that idea, but since you have made that part, so we have a motion from you to, Ms. Gardner, to release the lien, for the current owner, so the new owner, can obtain the property, without a lien against it, and the lien will be clear.
Yes.
Is there support for the motion?
I'm gonna write that down.
Just that,
Say it again.
actually what we're doing is simply approving the forgiveness of the lien, is that what you're?
Yes, we're releasing the lien, so we don't
Releasing it.
longer hold.
Motion to release the lien.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion on the motion to release the lien relative to the property described by Krista?
No, but the owner will be happy she'll get her money now.
Positive comment there. Given that we are giving resources, got a roll call vote on that,
Ms.
please?
Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Hogla.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. We will release the lien. Documents will be signed quickly, where needed.
Yep.
We do have documents to sign on behalf of Yooper Engineering. Anything else under, new business that we should have addressed and I did not put on the agenda, or, something addressed, we need to take care of before we call for public comment one more time and then adjourn?
I don't think so.
We got everything?
I think so.
We've reached the end of the business portion of our meeting then. We will provide a second opportunity for public comment. You'll have up to 3 minutes if you have something you'd like to offer for the board's consideration, or just a general statement, and the time will begin after you introduce yourself and begin talking. Mr. Schmidt.
Or Schmidt, there are two documents in tonight's packet for the board. There are the Eagle intent to apply form, which is about drinking water infrastructure, and there's 2 pages. One is to repair or replace galvanized and lead pipes in Dollar Bay. And then the second one, which caught my interest, is there's Dollar Bay would be connected to Tamarack City water system. And I noticed that the costs are quite significant for the second project, which look like they're going to be about $3.7 million total. And I was wondering if this is something that you have initiated or something that the state has requested you to initiate. Do you need to look at this?
No, I know what you're referencing. Generally, questions are not answered, as you know, during public comment, but in this instance, it tends to apply that we are interested in applying for resources, and we needed to get material into the state prior to a deadline relative to the availability of funds in this application cycle, as I understand it. So those have gone in on our behalf. Those projects are not something that has been ordered of us relative to the water line to Tamarack City by the state. With regards to the goosenecks, there are expectations that we will replace all of the lead goosenecks over a time period, I believe it's 20 years,
Mhm.
and that process has begun in the very recent past here in Dollar Bay. But those are requests for financial assistance, or actually notices more appropriately of our intent to apply for financial resources of one type or another for those projects.
Well, I just want to add that, I'm actually asking them as a water board member. So, the second project, the water line from here to Tamarack City. So I'm just saying that I'm asking the question as a water board member rather than as a citizen.
It has been on the drawing boards for some period of time here in Osceola Township to move the Osceola portion of the township's water system, Dollar Bay, Woodside, Mason, from Mason to Tamarack City, and to have a single water supply as the primary supply for all 4 communities identified: Woodside, Mason, Dollar Bay, and Tamarack City. Currently in Tamarack City, as you very well know, and I think most everyone knows from past meetings, is that we are purchasing, or have purchased in the past, water from the Michigan American Water Company. Footnote is that the Michigan American Water Company, this past Friday, has been sold by its parent company to a firm out of, I believe, New Jersey. And information is just starting to come into our office about that sale. So we will have a new wholesale point for portable water in Tamarack City relative to the company that will be providing it. For all practical purposes, Michigan American Water no longer exists. I'm looking
Yep.
for confirmation.
Yep.
Material is beginning to come in to us. So we're not certain what that means. So part of our long-term planning that predates me certainly, and I'm guessing predates perhaps
Me.
the 2 of
Yeah,
you,
me.
is that there has always been interest in moving a water line from the Dollar Bay area to Tamarack City, and then having available, if needed, the water previously provided by Michigan American Water as a backup if something should happen to to, in effect, have two sources of water rather than just one. It would there are all kinds of advantages, but it would take, several minutes to explain all of that in even general detail, from rate structures to availability.
Well, I couldn't want to go that far.
No, just.
Will this have any effect upon the sewage, the Torch Lake sewage system?
That, I can't answer the question directly at this time. That's a separate issue, but I don't, off the top of my head, there is still a need for sewage capability. And we are part of, as a township, the Torch Lake Sewage Authority. As you very well know, representative of Osceola appointed by this board to that board. So what we have is the potential down the road of an interesting situation where the historic provider of water would change to an inside the township supply. But its impact on our sewage arrangement may not be anything at all in the near or long term, because we're part of the partnership that manages that system now, if I may phrase it that way. So its impact is unknown, but I don't see it as being adverse at this time, because what we're talking about is portable water, not wastewater.
Right.
So I can't answer the question more specifically than that at this time, but I just don't see it. And you're getting my opinion, Horst, and I do need to qualify that. This is stuff that we haven't talked about internally to any great extent. We're focusing now with an opportunity perhaps to look at the feasibility of pushing a water line from Mason.
Is
to
this
Kennewick City.
why the representative from UP Engineers is here tonight, or is that a separate issue?
Well, he's here for looking at an option for financing, if I understood all of that correctly, Emma. Should we go forward with something and have an opportunity to seek funding from more than one source?
So, but it's not related to this at this point.
Well, only in the sense that we've filed paperwork with an intent to apply, which was mentioned earlier, and there's interest in how we go about underwriting and paying for, if I may. I think I'm stating that correctly. The project should have come to fruition. We're at a very early stage right now, of course, so you're getting opinion, not necessarily supported by fact as to what will ultimately take place. If that makes sense.
Yes, but
It's a discussion for the board and the residents of Osceola Township as we proceed down these paths.
all right, well, thank you then.
I hope everyone found that understandable and at least reasonably helpful. And if I misspoke, please correct me now. Anyone? So,
We don't have enough information yet,
We don't.
so.
anyone else that would like to offer comment for the board's consideration at this time? First, I hope you found that beneficial.
Yes, I did.
It's just beginning.
Yeah, make one other.
You have another minute.
Okay. Next Wednesday, 7 PM, we're going to have a Zoom meeting regarding the petition that is being passed around about suppressing voters voting and election subversion. And I'll be happy to send this information to you prior to the meeting so that people understand what is happening in terms of the changes that are being attempted to actually bypass the governor and the legislature to put it into law, meaning that if 340,000 people sign the petition, they will be the ones who will that actually legislate it. The petition, the laws that would come out of the petition. So if that's unclear, I can try to clarify it a little bit more.
Everybody understand that? Need for further clarification? We're talking about putting something on the ballot in 2022 that if passed, ultimately would alter how we manage our.
Right. It's a form of voter suppression, and it's kind of like playing a board game where you're guaranteed to lose.
I'm always receptive to information being forwarded that would be of interest to the township, at least generally, if not specifically, so,
I'll make a note to
please,
send
thank you.
all of you the information.
Thank you, Horst. Anybody else with a desire to comment or offer a question or input to the board? Hearing none, we'll close the second session of public comment. Please note the time. Any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion.
Ms. Hool moves that we adjourn. Is there support?
I support.
We have a motion and support to adjourn. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
I almost said that too.
Motion carries, we stand adjourned.
I didn't want to whack you with the hammer though.
You know, it takes it so long.
Damn it. You're talking about that drip there?
Yeah.
Probably put a little silicone underneath there, we put the